I come in the kitchen, you in the kitchen. In the goddamn refrigerator.
And they didn't want John Witherspoon. What? They didn't want him. They thought he was too ghetto. They thought that John was too country, that he was too Detroit. You know, that Detroit player, brother. You know, John has a very, distinct personality.
The movie cost $2 million.
$2 million. We got paid $5,000 a piece to do that movie.
Right, and I guess Ice Cube was gonna put up the money himself.
Right.
But New Line Cinema talked him out of it.
They said, look, ain't no sense you losing $2 million. If the movie bomb, we just take the hit.
The secrets John Witherspoon revealed about his life and career would make anyone scream in disbelief.
So she didn't want me to be successful, I can understand that. So I worked the door, then I MC, and she would be collecting the money. Missy be in the corner collecting the money.
From growing up with 11 siblings whose parents were too busy making babies to explain the birds and bees, to getting paid pocket change for blockbuster movies while studio executives got rich.
They never told us about apparently they didn't have time.
They're too busy making kids.
His stories about family chaos, industry exploitation, and the shocking truth behind Hollywood's treatment of black comedians exposed secrets that the entertainment world desperately wanted to keep buried. So let's get into it. Detroit city workers in the 1940s apparently treated birth certificates like lottery tickets, randomly assigning spellings to family surnames based on whatever mood struck them that particular day. John Witherspoon discovered this bureaucratic nightmare firsthand when he realized that his own family carried two completely different legal identities, despite sharing the same bloodline. The chaos began at birth and continued throughout their lives, creating confusion that would follow them into their professional careers.
In our family, some of my brothers and sisters were Witherspoon, some of them were Weatherspoon. That's how the city did it. They didn't give a damn.
The 11 Witherspoon children grew up navigating a world where their own siblings had different surnames on official documents. Some received Witherspoon, while others got Weatherspoon, creating a permanent administrative nightmare that affected everything from school enrollment to legal documents. The city clerks who processed these birth certificates showed complete indifference to the confusion they were creating for an entire generation of children.
They didn't know how to spell it, I guess.
They just changed some of your names?
No, they didn't change them. At birth, it was like that.
Okay.
So I got brothers who are Witherspoon and Weatherspoon.
The household dynamics in a family of 11 children created unique challenges that extended far beyond name confusion. John's parents were apparently so occupied with the practical demands of raising their enormous brood that they never found time to provide basic education about reproduction or relationships. The irony that the parents were clearly familiar with the mechanics of procreation while failing to explain it to their children became a source of lifelong humor for John.
They never told us about apparently they didn't have time.
They're too busy making kids.
Yeah, too busy making kids, yeah.
John eventually chose to embrace the Witherspoon spelling for his professional career, though he suspected he might have originally been registered as Weatherspoon. This decision would define his public identity for decades, but the family name confusion served as an early lesson in how arbitrary, bureaucratic decisions could shape your entire life trajectory. The experience taught him that success would require navigating systems that often made no logical sense and showed little concern for individual circumstances. Las Vegas in the early 1970s served as John Witherspoon's introduction to the brutal reality of entertainment industry economics, where one night of good luck could be followed by weeks of desperation. After struggling with New York comedy clubs that scheduled him for 3 a.m. performances in front of empty rooms, he decided to take his savings and drive west to see what real comedians were doing in Nevada's entertainment capital.
Yeah, I went to Vegas first, which I shouldn't have done because I lost my money the first night. First week I was there, I lost all my money.
Okay.
Thank God I rented a room for 30 days.
The gambling addiction that destroyed many entertainment careers claimed Witherspoon's traveling money within his first week in Las Vegas. His decision to prepay for a month's lodging proved to be the only smart financial move he made during the entire trip. Stranded in his hotel room with no money and no way to get home, he spent 3 weeks making desperate phone calls to friends and family members who suddenly developed selective hearing problems when asked for financial assistance.
I don't know how this happened. I went to see Diana Ross one night. I had about $1.50 in my pocket. So I said, man, I might be going to throw this thing in the machine.
A miraculous $7,000 slot machine jackpot rescued Witherspoon from his self-created financial disaster, providing enough cash to escape Las Vegas and continue his journey to Los Angeles. The casino's immediate cash payment demonstrated how differently gambling establishments treated winners in the 1970s compared to modern operations. His decision to leave town immediately rather than risk losing his winnings again showed hard-learned wisdom about the addictive nature of gambling.
But Mitzi made me an MC because I needed that money for a job, see. Mitzi made me the MC at the Comedy Store. So I emceed the second show. Dave Letterman emceed the first show. He was the MC of the first show. I emceed the second show.
Mitzi Shore's business model at the Comedy Store relied on maintaining a stable of desperate performers who would work for minimal compensation in exchange for stage time and potential exposure. Her decision to make Witherspoon the MC for the second show provided him with regular income, but strategically positioned him in a support role rather than developing him as a headlining act. This arrangement served Shore's interests by ensuring she had reliable talent while keeping that talent dependent on her continued favor. Shore's admission that she didn't want Witherspoon to become too successful exposed the deliberate nature of her employment strategy. Successful comedians eventually outgrew the Comedy Store and moved on to more lucrative opportunities, disrupting Shore's business model. By keeping talented performers in support roles and providing just enough income to prevent them from leaving, she maintained control over her talent pool while minimizing turnover costs. Eddie Murphy's star power in the early 1990s gave him unprecedented influence over casting decisions, but his attempt to include John Witherspoon in Boomerang revealed how studio executives used financial pressure and threats to maintain control over creative choices. Paramount Pictures' initial rejection of Witherspoon, despite Murphy's explicit request, demonstrated the racist assumptions that governed Hollywood decision-making, even when dealing with established stars.
Eddie said, I want Spoon to play David Allen Greer's father.
Right.
Because Spoon is crazy. So he told Paramount that, and Paramount said, we don't want no Spoon.
Paramount's dismissive response to Murphy's casting request revealed their attitude toward black performers they didn't recognize or control. Their question about who this Spoon person was demonstrated how little attention studio executives paid to talent outside their predetermined circles. The immediate invocation of budget concerns provided a convenient excuse to avoid taking risks on unfamiliar performers while maintaining plausible deniability about their racist gatekeeping practices.
They told Warrington, Paramount told Warrington, if y'all do it, we're gonna squash this movie. And Eddie said, you don't work for Paramount, you work for me.
Director Warrington Hudlin faced explicit threats from Paramount executives who weaponized their distribution and marketing power to intimidate creative decisions. The studio's ultimatum to destroy the entire film if Witherspoon was included demonstrated how they used nuclear options to enforce their will on projects. Hudlin's defiant response showed rare courage in standing up to institutional pressure, but it came with enormous personal and professional risks that few directors were willing to take. Witherspoon's arrival on the Boomerang set revealed the extent of Paramount's passive-aggressive resistance to his inclusion. The absence of written dialogue or defined character traits forced him to create his entire performance from scratch, while working under intense scrutiny from hostile executives. This sabotage attempt placed enormous pressure on him to prove his worth instantly, while providing minimal resources for success. In 1993, Sean and Marlon Wayans had everything lined up for network television success. Their sitcom about two brothers in Harlem was funny, fresh, and exactly what audiences were hungry for. There was just one problem. They insisted on casting John Witherspoon as their father.
Better keep John the Ghetto. They didn't want him as our father. Me and Sean was like, we don't want no other father. And they was like, either you replace the father or you don't get on our air. And we said, we're not replacing the father.
NBC executives looked at John Witherspoon, now a veteran comedian with decades of experience and perfect comic timing, and saw only what they considered unacceptable blackness. He was too Detroit, meaning too urban, too country, meaning too rooted in authentic black culture, too ghetto, meaning he didn't perform the sanitized version of black fatherhood that white executives felt comfortable marketing to mainstream America.
This wasn't about acting ability. Witherspoon had been working professionally since the 1970s, appearing on everything from Barnaby Jones to The Richard Pryor Show. The Rejection was purely aesthetic. He looked and sounded too much like an actual black father for NBC's vision of acceptable television. The Wayans brothers faced an impossible choice: compromise their artistic vision or walk away from the biggest opportunity of their careers. Either you replace the father or you don't get on our air, NBC declared. The brothers' response was immediate. We're not replacing the father. NBC passed on the show entirely.
So NBC didn't pick us up. So then we're nowhere. And then WB is being created, and they need a flagship show. And we did this pilot called Wayans Brothers, and they was like, we'll take it. We'll take it.
The Wayans Bros became the WB's flagship series, running for 5 successful seasons. John Witherspoon's Pops became one of television's most beloved father figures. The success proved that NBC's Rejection had nothing to do with market viability and everything to do with institutional bias. They didn't reject Witherspoon because audiences wouldn't connect. They rejected him because his authenticity made them uncomfortable. His presence challenged their carefully constructed image of how black people should appear on their network. This pattern would follow Witherspoon throughout his career. Time and again, he would be passed over for roles that went to actors deemed more acceptable by industry standards. The man who could make any script funnier through pure authenticity was consistently told that his authenticity was precisely the problem.
But man, we had so much fun. And he was like, always telling me, Marlon, you need to get more keys, see? You need to have more keys. Don't just, you got this actor key, you got the producer key. See, now you want to be like a janitor where you can open up any door you want.
Witherspoon understood the game better than most. But his own authentic voice, the very quality that made him irreplaceable, also made him vulnerable to systematic exclusion from an industry that demanded black performers become palatable versions of themselves. By 1995, John Witherspoon had experienced his share of industry disappointments. But nothing prepared him for what would become both his biggest breakthrough and most glaring example of Hollywood exploitation. When Ice Cube approached him about Friday, Witherspoon saw it as just another gig. The pay was insulting, the schedule brutal, and the budget barely above student film levels. $5,000 for a 20-day shoot. That's $250 per day, less than many background actors earn on major productions. The entire cast received the same insulting pay while New Line Cinema positioned themselves to reap massive profits. The studio convinced Ice Cube not to self-finance by promising distribution and marketing, then locked everyone into poverty wage contracts.
The movie cost $2 million.
$2 million. We got paid $5,000 a piece to do that movie.
Right. And I guess Ice Cube was going to put up the money himself.
Right.
But New Line Cinema talked him out of it.
They said, look, ain't no sense you losing $2 million. The movie bomb, we did take the hit. The movie grossed $300 million.
The mathematics of exploitation became crystal clear.
Witherspoon's iconic performance as Willie Jones generated millions while he received exactly $5,000. His quotable lines, "Don't nobody go in the bathroom for about 35-45 minutes," became cultural touchstones, driving merchandise sales and endless rewatching. New Line profited from every quote, every meme, while Witherspoon saw nothing beyond his original pittance. Much of what made Friday special came from improvisation. Ice Cube encouraged the cast to ad-lib and bring their personalities to the characters. Witherspoon was essentially creating intellectual property in real time, generating material that would be monetized for decades, while being paid less than most people earn in a week. Chris Tucker's eventual exit illuminated the industry's twisted priorities. By next Friday, Tucker was commanding $20 million per movie thanks to Rush Hour. The studio that paid him $5,000 for creating one of comedy's most memorable characters was now competing with offers 4,000 times larger.
He's making with Jackie Chan with that Rush Hour making $20 million. So I wouldn't go back to Friday either.
So that was it. It was just a money thing.
Oh, it's all about money.
Witherspoon understood Tucker's decision completely. Why return to a franchise that exploited you when other studios offered fair compensation? For Witherspoon, the reality was different. While Tucker leveraged his success into blockbuster paydays, Witherspoon found himself typecast and undervalued. His pay increased to $400,000 for next Friday, substantial, but still a tiny fraction of the revenue his character generated. The Friday franchise became a perfect case study in how Hollywood extracts maximum value from black talent while providing minimum compensation. The movie's success created careers for executives and massive profits for studios. The actors who created the magic received tiny fractions of the wealth their work generated. Witherspoon was the engine that powered profitable productions, while being paid like a background performer. When the Boondocks premiered on Adult Swim in 2005, it represented something unprecedented, an uncompromising vision of black life that refused to soften its edges. John Witherspoon's casting as Grandad Freeman seemed like perfect synergy. What should have been a creative renaissance instead became another example of how the industry undervalues black talent.
So he called me and said, "Spoon, you want to do a cartoon?" I said, "I don't do no cartoon. What am I don't cartoon." He said, "Man, just do the pilot." So I went in and I kind of liked the script. It was funny because they were reaching out and doing other stuff that other cartoons that we did that didn't do.
Witherspoon's initial reluctance revealed his understanding of industry hierarchies. Live action roles carried more prestige and better compensation than animation work. But the Boondocks promised something different. A chance to be part of groundbreaking television that tackled social issues other shows avoided. The irony wasn't lost on observers. While networks had rejected Witherspoon's physical presence as too ghetto, they were perfectly willing to profit from his voice when his face wasn't visible. Animation provided the perfect solution for executives who wanted his talent without confronting their discomfort with his authentic black masculinity. The Boondocks allowed Witherspoon to showcase range that live-action typecasting never permitted. Grandad Freeman was complex, a civil rights veteran grappling with modern culture, a single grandfather raising two boys, a man whose old-school values clashed with contemporary realities.
You're having that dream where you made the white people riot, weren't you?
But I was telling the truth.
How many times have I told you you better not even dream about telling white folk the truth?
The character required dramatic weight alongside comedic timing. The creative freedom Aaron Magruder provided stood in stark contrast to Witherspoon's other experiences. Rather than demanding strict script adherence, creators encouraged improvisation and personal interpretation. This approach recognized what live-action directors often missed. Witherspoon's instincts typically improved whatever material he was given. Voice recording became a masterclass in comedic timing. Witherspoon would record scenes multiple ways. Once as written, then with his own interpretations. This captured both writers' original intentions and the actors' unique contributions, creating spontaneous feeling final products despite careful planning. Yet, even as the Boondocks earned critical acclaim, Witherspoon faced familiar financial realities. Voice acting was compensated far below live-action work. The show's success generated substantial revenue through ratings, merchandise, and streaming. But voice actors rarely shared proportionally in that success. Witherspoon recognized the show's lasting impact and potential for continued success. But he also understood the industry's reluctance to embrace content that challenged comfortable narratives. Networks preferred safer programming that could be easily syndicated without controversy, even when that meant abandoning critically acclaimed content. The show's controversial content created additional complications. The Boondocks tackled topics mainstream television avoided: institutional racism, Black identity politics, celebrity culture's impact on communities.
See, that's what I'm talking about right there. We don't use the N-word in this house.
While this created compelling television, it also made the show difficult to market traditionally. For Witherspoon, the Boondocks represented both opportunity and frustration. The role showcased his dramatic range and contributed to culturally significant television, but it reinforced the industry's preference for his talent over his physical presence. He could voice authentic Black masculinity as long as audiences didn't see his face. As John Witherspoon entered his 70s, the entertainment industry should have been celebrating a comedy legend whose 5-decade career brought joy to millions. Instead, they were preparing to do what they had always done: profit from his work while excluding him from benefits. The Friday franchise's planned 4th installment became the perfect symbol of how Hollywood treats Black icons.
The 4th Friday, and I don't think they're going to do it because Chris Tucker didn't want to do it. And Warner Brothers bought New Line Cinema, who owns the 3 Fridays. And Warner Brothers will do it, but they want Chris Tucker in the cast.
Last Friday had been discussed for over a decade. Ice Cube had written multiple scripts. Fans demanded it on social media. The franchise's cultural impact had only grown stronger. Everything was in place except the most important element: respect for the people who had created the magic originally. Warner Brothers approached the project with the same mentality that had characterized the franchise from its beginning. They wanted maximum profit while minimizing compensation for the original cast. Their obsession with securing Chris Tucker's return revealed their fundamental misunderstanding of what made Friday special. The studio's focus on Tucker ignored that Willie Jones was equally essential to the franchise's success. Willie wasn't just Craig's father. He was the emotional center of all 3 movies, the character who grounded comedy in authentic family dynamics. His quotable lines had become cultural touchstones. Meanwhile, Tucker's religious conversion created complications that should have been predictable. His reluctance to participate in projects involving drug use wasn't secret. It had been widely reported. Yet Warner Brothers built their plans around securing an actor whose stated values were incompatible with the franchise's content. This strategic miscalculation wasted years while the original cast aged and the moment for natural series conclusion slipped away. More importantly, it demonstrated the studio's willingness to sacrifice Witherspoon's participation pursuing Tucker's return. Witherspoon understood business realities, but remained frustrated by the industry's inability to move forward. "I'll be there because I need that paper," he told interviewers, acknowledging both his financial needs and commitment to the franchise that had defined his later career.
That's what I'm thinking about.
Pops, hey, Pops.
Come up there 2 days and do something, let me get my money. He cutting a lot of people's money off.
And that's not very Christian. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he
That's
won't
not
be
very Christian
saved.
at all.
There you go.
He blocking my paper.
Witherspoon's frustration wasn't purely financial. It was personal. The Friday franchise provided steady income and career relevance for actors who might otherwise struggle in an industry obsessed with youth. Tucker's refusal wasn't just blocking one movie. it was preventing an entire cast from benefiting from a franchise they had helped create. Behind the scenes, real tragedy was unfolding. Witherspoon's health was declining, though few outside his family understood the severity. Coronary artery disease and hypertension were silently undermining his cardiovascular system, while studio executives debated script revisions and casting decisions that might never matter. The ultimate betrayal wasn't financial, it was temporal. Hollywood stole Witherspoon's time through endless delays and false promises, then acted surprised when time ran out entirely. They had decades to properly honor his contributions, and chose instead to treat him as an afterthought in projects built around his talent. The dispatch call came in at 5:30 p.m. Pacific Time. Rescue requested for unconscious man under cardiac arrest, CPR in progress. Minutes later, the same dispatcher returned with devastating news. Man deceased. Cancel rescue. At his Sherman Oaks home, John Witherspoon had suffered a massive heart attack that stole away one of entertainment's most authentic voices. The man who joked about being a landlord had indeed built a comfortable life. 5 properties, financial security, a wife of over 30 years, 2 sons who adored him. By conventional measures, John Witherspoon had achieved the American dream. Yet his death revealed how the industry had systematically undervalued him throughout his career. The death certificate painted a clinical picture. Myocardial infarction was the immediate cause, but underlying conditions told a more complex story. Coronary artery disease, hypertension, and obesity had been slowly compromising his cardiovascular system while he continued working, making appearances, hoping for that elusive last Friday payday. His family's announcement captured both devastation and pride. He was a legend in the entertainment industry and a father figure to all who watched him over the years. Fellow performers responded immediately. Ice Cube tweeted, "Life won't be as funny without him." Regina King called him my comedic inspiration. But the industry's institutional response was telling in its absence. Major networks that had profited from his work offered no special programming tributes. Streaming services that had monetized his performances created no memorial sections. Award shows that had ignored him during his lifetime didn't suddenly discover his worthiness in death.
But I work so hard, man. I go home and my kid's going to college now. My wife is, her mother's getting old, so she went to Washington, D.C., so I'm at the house by myself now.
That's crazy.
But you know, I'm happy, man. I was broke when I was growing up. I had to tell everybody that.
The picture that emerged was of a man who had worked constantly, supporting not just his immediate family, but extended relatives and friends throughout the industry. He had been alone when the heart attack struck, his wife in Washington, caring for her aging mother. The comedian who had made millions laugh had died in solitude. Warner Brothers' response regarding Last Friday was particularly revealing. Rather than announcing plans to honor his memory through project completion, executives seemed to view his passing as the final nail in a troubled production's coffin. Ice Cube's frustration boiled over at Witherspoon's memorial service, where he publicly called out studio executives by name.
I really apologize to my friend for not getting the next Friday movie made. It's not my fault. Some dumbass people in Hollywood at New Line Cinema. If you want to, you can email Toby Emmerich and Richard Brenner if you feel like I feel.
The industry's silence wasn't accidental. It was systematic. Witherspoon had never played Hollywood's game according to their rules. He had focused on his craft and family, assuming talent and professionalism would be enough. The industry's silence after his death proved how wrong that assumption had been. The ultimate tragedy wasn't just Witherspoon's death. It was the industry's wasted opportunity to learn from their treatment of him.
His career provided a perfect case study in how Hollywood systematically undervalues Black authenticity while profiting from it. Instead of reflection and reform, they chose amnesia. The industry's refusal to honor John Witherspoon wasn't an oversight. It was a choice that revealed ugly truths about how Hollywood really values its Black performers.
Anyway, that's it for this video, folks. Bye.